We all hear about empathy and why it's so important, especially inside of our organizations. But can you actually have too much empathy at work? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Before we jump into the content from this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up, and tap those notifications so that you will get access to more of these videos whenever they get released every single week. All the videos designed to help make you a better leader and help you excel in your career. So, can you have too much empathy inside of your organization? The answer to that is yes, you can. You can actually have too much of anything, and specifically empathy. And today I want to cover 3 specific examples and 3 instances where having too much empathy might actually hurt you. But first, let's talk about what empathy actually is. Now, sympathy and empathy are not the same thing, although they oftentimes get used interchangeably. Sympathy is basically saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. Empathy, on the other hand, is actually understanding where somebody else is coming from, understanding their emotions and feelings, and being able to put yourself in their shoes to get their perspective. So instead of saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, you might say, I understand exactly how you feel, and actually put yourself in their shoes to grasp their perspective. So again, the question becomes, can you have too much empathy? And yes, you can. And here are a couple examples of where too much empathy might actually hurt you. So the first situation is when you need to make a difficult decision. Now, I've gone through this personally, where many years ago, I had somebody on my team that was helping me with social media. And we worked together for several years. We had a good relationship. And whenever we would talk, I was getting slowly upset and frustrated with performance. Things weren't getting done on time. I would find a lot of mistakes. And whenever we would do our weekly calls, this person would tell me what was going on. You know, somebody was sick. I'm looking after a dog. I'm having challenges and this and that. And there was always something that was going on in this person's life, which seemed to be a little bit of an excuse for why work wasn't getting done the way it should. And I could relate to all of the challenges that this person was going through. I empathized with absolutely everything that she was telling me. And the challenge for me became that this was going on for months, for many, many months, probably 4, 5, 6 months. And I was not able to let this person go. I was not able to make the move and hire somebody else because, again, I was so attached to this person. I was so empathetic with everything that she was telling me that I felt guilty to do anything about it. And I tried everything I could. We tried to work together on strategies. I tried to come up with improvement plans. I tried everything that I could do. Nothing was working. But because I was so empathetic in this situation, I wasn't able to make the tough choice that I needed to make that eventually I finally did make. So one of the signs for you, if you have too much empathy, is perhaps you are struggling with making a difficult decision as well. And this usually occurs in situations where maybe you do need to let go of an employee, where maybe you do need to have a difficult conversation with somebody, but it's very hard to do so, again, because you're very empathetic to that person's situation or circumstance. Another example of where too much empathy might show its face is when you try to help everyone and anyone. Hey, really quick, do you want to hear something crazy? Over 96% of the people who watch these videos on this channel are not subscribed. Why don't we fix that? If you want to get access to more awesome videos just like this one, make sure to hit subscribe so you'll get notified when they get released. I have a friend in my life who does this. And this person, we talk about these people as having a bleeding heart, right? In other words, anytime anyone is presented with a problem or a challenge, this friend of mine steps in and tries to help them. Now, on the surface, that is of course not a bad thing. Helping other people is a very noble cause. But when you have too much empathy for everyone and anything, you overextend yourself to the point of burnout. And it happened that this friend of mine was helping other people so much that they started to neglect their own health. They started to neglect their own opportunities, their own family. They started to get stressed out. They ended up having to go to the doctor several times because of heart palpitations and high blood pressure, because they were so scattered trying to do things for other people because they wanted to help everyone else that they were not able to take care of themselves. So in this case, having too much empathy can actually be detrimental because you're not able to focus and you just try to help anyone and everyone who comes your way. And one of the things that these types of people forget, those who have too much empathy, is that saying no to other people is oftentimes saying yes to yourself and the things that you want to prioritize and the things that you care about. So again, having empathy is good, but you need to make sure that it is focused, that it's directed, and that it doesn't all of a sudden consume you to the point of exhaustion and stress where you're doing so many things for other people that you also forget to take care of yourself. So it's important to have that healthy balance of empathy. The last example of where too much empathy can come into play is the blurring of boundaries. So for example, let's say you work at a company and you see that one of your employees or peers just got a divorce or they broke up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend. In that situation, the blurring of boundaries can be a pretty dangerous thing where all of a sudden you start saying, oh, why don't you come over to my house for dinner? Let me talk to you about some things that you can do. Let me connect you with some of my single friends. If they have issues with poor performance, you might start to let them slide. In other words, the boundaries completely get blurred and all of a sudden you can't separate the relationship that you have with this person as a colleague versus the relationship that you might have as a friend or as somebody that you're trying to help out. And again, this usually happens because we have too much empathy in the situation. We try to help as much as we can that we forget about those boundaries. We forget about those lines that separate work and life. I've certainly been in that situation. I'm sure you've been in that situation as well. There's a concept called empathetic concern versus empathetic absorption. Now, empathetic concern is the healthy concern that you might have for somebody else, where you put yourself in their shoes, you understand their perspective, you are concerned for them, and of course, you try to help them. Empathetic absorption is where you actually take in their emotions, you absorb their feelings and their emotions, you, in a sense, become that person. And that's where we start to see a little bit of danger. That's when these boundaries start to blur. So what you want to remember to do is to have that empathetic concern for somebody, but you want to make sure that you're not actually absorbing the other person's emotions. You want to make sure that you are not becoming that other person. Another important strategy that you can do is to make empathy a part of everyone's job. If you work at an organization and you are the only one that's practicing empathy, then obviously you're going to become the bottleneck. It's going to become very stressful for you. Everyone's going to want to talk to you. However, if empathy becomes a cultural trait that everyone inside of your organization exhibits, then you distribute the empathy amongst your colleagues and peers. That is much more of a healthy way to think about empathy, where it's not just one person's job, it's everyone's job to look out for each other, to check in with each other, to understand each other's perspectives. It distributes it and it creates a much healthier environment, a much healthier culture for your organization. So just to recap, can you have too much empathy at work? Yes, you can. And 3 of the examples that I gave you today are when you are no longer able to make tough decisions, when you try to help anyone and everyone, and when you might notice that the boundaries between your professional and your personal life, specifically in a relationship to a colleague or peer, start to blur. If those things happen, maybe take a step back and ask yourself if you are crossing the line in some of these areas, if you have too much empathy. And some of the strategies that we talked about are, again, practicing empathetic concern versus empathetic absorption, of bringing in somebody else's feelings and emotions, and teaching empathy to all of your colleagues and peers so that it gets distributed. If you found this video valuable, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Can you have too much empathy? Is this something that you have struggled with or somebody at your company has struggled with? And what did you do as a result? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.